Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're returning, welcome back. My name is Wanda Lee. So this video is different from my other videos. It's slightly on the more personal side. I have made some more personal videos, but that's not the regular type of content that I make. But I really felt in my heart to make this video for anyone out there that could be encouraged or that could be helped by this video. What I did was I typed up everything I wanted to say. Hopefully it's not too long. I'm going to try to make it as short and sweet as possible, but I didn't want to forget anything. So I wanted to make this video because I remember being young and having so many different feelings about myself. Some due to others, some due to other circumstances, things that people said to me about myself, and also feelings that were within me. I'm 44 years old now, and God has brought me a very long way. So what I want to share with you all is a little bit about my life and myself as a teenager and how what I believed, how my beliefs affected the way I felt about myself and how it impacted the choices that I made in life. So before I begin, wouldn't you like to see me as a teenager? I don't mean just photos. Wouldn't you like to see actual footage of when I was a teenager? Well, I'm so thankful that when I was in high school, I'm so thankful that when I was in high school, during my senior year, I was part of the yearbook committee. And back then, there was no internet, there was no cell phones. However, me and the yearbook committee, we were a little bit ahead of our time back then. We decided that instead of having a typical yearbook, that we wanted to do something new and different. So we raised money and we hired people to come and do a yearbook video. So yes, I have video footage of my teenage self. The video you're going to see is when I was 17 years old. I had braces, I had tons of insecurities. I made a lot of mistakes. Looking back at myself, I wish I knew how valuable and how beautiful I really was. So let's get into the video.
With our class on demand, we are breaking new ground with the city's first video yearbook. Okay, this is the best senior class right here. We do everything. Okay, I'm gonna miss everybody because they're all my best buddies and I love them.
This is my 4th year and last year, thank God, at this Grover Cleveland High School. It's been fun. I love it. I'm glad it's the last year. And I'm going to miss all my 13 friends. And I wish them all the best. And for all those who betted that I wouldn't make it, you know where you can go. And I'm just proud of myself and all my friends. And I hope you all graduate from college.
When we film them later. Thank you very much. We're very happy to be on this video yearbook.
Even though I learned a lot about evolution and the Big Bang Theory in school, as a young child, I always had questions about God. I remember I would ask my mom questions like, Mom, when it's raining, is God crying? And I used to think that when there was lightning out, that maybe God was angry. And no one had to tell me that there was a God. As a child, I just knew that there was a God. When we are born with a natural inclination and curiosity about a higher being. That's how God created us. As I got older, that childlike belief in God became less and less until eventually I wasn't even sure why I was born or what my purpose was in life. By the time I was a senior in high school, where you saw the video footage, I had already made a lot of poor choices based off of how I felt about myself. And I continued to make quite a few more. I remember looking for love in boys, looking for acceptance in the cool kids. I remember wanting to be like other girls because I didn't feel like I was enough, questioning my sexuality, and eventually feeling like I didn't want to live anymore. So I wish I knew then what I know now, and that is that I was created by God and that I had value and a purpose. You know, in school we're taught that the world was created by some big explosion, the Big Bang Theory, and that we humans evolved from monkeys. You know, it's amazing the things that scientists believe. A lot of times Christians are accused of believing things that are ridiculous or impossible. But before I continue, let me tell you a quick story. So I used to teach art, and I had this friend who also loved art, and she invited me to the opening of an art show. When we arrived, there was beautiful works of art neatly displayed on the walls. Each one had a title and a description, and at the bottom of each piece, there was a signature, and each signature was the same. We stopped at each piece and observed the brushstrokes, all the different colors, and the feeling the paintings gave us. Each one told the story. It was extraordinary. As we were leaving, I turned to my friend and I asked her who the artist was. She looked at me rather confused and said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Who painted all those paintings?" And she rather condescendingly said, "What is wrong with you? No one painted them." They eventually came about little by little, and little by little turned into the works of art that they are. Rather stunned, I said, "What do you mean they just came about?" And she responded, "That gallery used to be colorless. Its walls were bare white and the floors were black. Then suddenly a huge earthquake shook the place and bang, color began to form, and eventually those beautiful masterpieces developed." I looked at her like she was crazy. Now this is a fictitious story, but can you imagine someone telling you that? You'd most likely think she was crazy, and you'd be right too. Well, if you believe in the Big Bang Theory, you're just like my friend in the fictitious story. To believe that a planet void of life suddenly had a huge explosion, then life appears out of nowhere and slowly develops into all the animals and people you now see is just as crazy as thinking that a colorless, empty gallery had an earthquake and then suddenly intricate, beautiful artwork suddenly begins to appear. It's scientifically impossible. Everything in the earth is perfectly balanced and works together. Just like the paintings were perfectly hung and labeled. Just like every painting, we are unique. God uses brushstrokes to create each one of us individually. We have a name, we have value, our lives tell a story. If you look in the mirror, God has left his signature all over you. You are made in his image. Well, what does that mean? It means he created us to be like him, creative, with an intellect, with the ability to experience emotions, the desire to connect and have relationships. Just like when you see a painting and you immediately know that there is an artist behind it, when you look in the mirror, you should know that the creator is behind your existence. What you believe about how we humans came to be, how animals and the world were created affects every aspect of your life. If you believe that our perfectly balanced world came from a big explosion and that animals came out of nothing and then evolved into something living, and that we humans evolved from apes, then your view of yourself, of others, of animals, and of the world will forever be distorted. So I want to talk about 4 ways that your view can be distorted if you believe that we evolved from apes and that the world just came out of a big explosion. Number 1. What you believe about how animals were created can also affect your views and your behavior towards animals. If you don't believe that God created each animal beautifully and with a purpose, then it can cause you to abuse animals, mistreat them, and even kill them. Now, I'm not talking about people such as the Native Americans and other people nowadays who killed animals and used them for clothing and their bones for tools and to eat the meat. I'm talking about pointless killing and animal cruelty. Proverbs 12:10 says, "The righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the wicked are cruel." What's the difference between the righteous and the wicked person? Simple. The righteous person believes in God as creator and the wicked person doesn't. I also found this quote which is pretty on point. "He who is cruel to animals becomes hard also in his dealings with men. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals." If you have men who will exclude any of God's creatures from the shelter of compassion and pity, You will have men who will deal likewise with their fellow men. This is so true. Most people who have a tendency, I used to watch a lot of documentaries, and a lot of times people who consistently kill other people, they start as young children by harming animals. Now, on the flip side of this, if you don't believe that God created animals, right? Some people who don't believe that God created animals are on the opposite side of the spectrum. So instead of abusing or hurting animals, they can end up worshiping animals instead of worshiping the one who created them. This is why we have so many people and entire religions that have statues and idols in the form of animals. This would be like giving credit to a painting for how amazing it is, instead of acknowledging the artist. Now this isn't anything new. If you read the Bible, you can see that even back then, people were worshiping idols in the form of animals. Just read Exodus 32, 1 through 35, and Deuteronomy 9. It talks about when Israel made a golden calf and worshipped it. Number 2, if you don't believe that the world was created intricately by God, for us to live in and to enjoy, it can cause you to do several things. You can be a person who has no regard for your surroundings. This shows in people who destroy nature around them. They pollute, they litter. They're unable to appreciate God's handiwork and creativity. To them, it's not a work of art by a loving God. It's just a bunch of plants and trees and so on that appeared out of nothing. Now, we humans cannot save the world. It is God and God alone who sustains the earth. However, we can be good stewards of the planet that he made for us. Now, on the flip side, not believing that the world was created by God can cause you to be on the other side of the spectrum. People who don't acknowledge God as creator of the world will end up worshiping the creation itself instead of the creator. So many people take time to go for hikes, to camp out. They even go on retreats to enjoy nature. They say it makes them feel at peace, calm, and refreshed. Well, why do you think that is? Is it because the trees, the river, the plants, and the flowers have power in themselves? Absolutely not. It's because nature proclaims God's glory. Nature testifies that God exists. Psalm 19, 1 through 6 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech, they use no words, no sound is heard from them. Yet their voices go out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens God has pitched a tent for the sun. It is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run its course. It rises at one end of the heavens and it makes its circuit to the other. Nothing is deprived of its warmth." Now, this was written before scientists discovered that the sun does not revolve around the earth, because back then people thought that the earth was like the center of the universe and the sun revolved around the earth. But eventually they realized that the earth revolves around the sun. Unfortunately, many people end up worshiping nature. Like a person who gives glory and praise to a painting and disregards the one who painted it, so are people who believe that nature has power within itself. Genesis 1, chapter 1, verses 1 through 24 tells us of the beginning of our world and how God created it in 5 days. Read it. In Genesis 1, 11 through 13, it even describes how he made trees and plants to bear all kinds of fruits and vegetables in different colors, shapes, textures, and tastes that are not only beautiful and taste good, but they also give us vitamins and minerals that we need. This shows how loving and caring God is. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 through 13 says, "Then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds. And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plant-bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning the third day." So the third way that what you believe about how you were created and how the world came to be can affect you is your beliefs about how you or we humans came to be impact the way you can view yourself. So you may not even realize it. You can view yourself as worthless, as not having any purpose, and you can even question who you are as a male or a female. It can also cause you to treat yourself poorly. You can abuse your body with drugs, alcohol, turn to eating and material things to fill the void in your heart. You can give your heart away to others and give your body away sexually, or even hurt and try to kill yourself. Suicide is constantly on the rise, especially among young people. If they only knew their worth and their value in God's eyes. Not only did God create the first ever man and woman, but he also designed and created who we are in our mother's bellies. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Now, God is talking to Jeremiah here. And while we aren't all called to be prophets, God had Jeremiah in his mind even before he was born, just like he had you on his mind even before you were born. In Psalm 139, 13 through 17, David says, "For you, God, created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them." God is personally involved in every person's conception. He designs our personalities, how we're going to look, whether we're going to be a boy or a girl, the gifts and talents that we have, and so much more. Just like an artist imagines the painting in his or her mind before they paint it, and they can see it, God also imagined you before you were even born. If that doesn't make you smile, I don't know what can. So now, on the other side of the spectrum, not believing in God as your creator can cause you to view yourself more highly than you ought to. Since in your mind there is no God, you aren't accountable to anyone because you are the end all and be all of, and you decide what's right and wrong. This is where all the self-help comes into play, the yoga, the meditation, and sometimes even mindfulness. People who are on this side of the spectrum are all about self, which we can see in our culture today. It's all about me, myself, and I. They believe that they have all the answers and that they have the power within themselves to be a good person, which couldn't be further from the truth. Proverbs 28:26 says, "Those who trust in themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom are kept safe." So what does it mean to walk in wisdom? Walking in wisdom is reading and obeying the Word of God, which is the Bible. Unlike the theory of evolution, humanity has nothing in common with an ape. Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27 says, "Then God said, let us," he's talking about God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, "make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish of the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and over all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. We, like God, are creative. We like to make things, create things, design things, and create beauty. We have an intellect. We use our minds. We have a desire to connect and have meaningful relationships. We feel a variety of emotions, just like he does. This is what separates us from animals. And lastly, number 4, what you believe about how we humans were created impacts the way you view and treat others. If you believe people are just mammals and in the same category as animals that have no purpose or value, then you will treat others as such. Some ways that this distorted view comes into play are in situations like bullying, being cruel, hurting others verbally or physically, trying to make others feel inferior, hating people, gossiping about others, viewing others as worthless and of no value. Not viewing others as created in God's image makes room for you to view others as less than, whether it's because of their race or their sex or their social or economic status. Viewing others in a harmful light causes you to treat people poorly. our view of who we are impacts every area of our lives. Some people may be kind on the outside. Some people may be kind to people on the outside or in the view of others, but in their hearts and in their private lives, they can harbor hate, envy, jealousy, and so on. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5 says, "But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days." And I believe we're living in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people. There's so many people out there who seem spiritual, whether it's that they just are spiritual in general or that they believe in a God, yet in their hearts, those are the type of things that they're harboring. So on the other side of the spectrum, if you don't view others as God's creation as well, it can cause you to view others more highly than you ought to, such as idolizing religious leaders, singers, actresses, actors, and people in sports. If you're not careful, you'll begin to esteem them so highly that you may end up worshiping them. No one deserves to be exalted and worshiped except God. In some religions, we see this in the form of saints and statues in the form of a person, or even worshiping heavenly beings. You can respect others without worshiping them. Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 and 4 says, and this is God speaking, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, no dead people, no saints, no angels, not Jesus' mother Mary, or on the earth beneath or in the waters below." That includes animals and nature. "You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God." So, the next time you look up at the sky and you see a sunrise or a sunset, I hope that you see God's brushstrokes and use of pink and purple and orange and blue. If you see a flower in bloom, I hope that you see God's creativity in the shape, smell, and intricacy of the flower. I hope you see nature as his provision for us as a place to enjoy, to see his glory, a place where you can take in all the beauty and wonder of God. How else could such a beautiful place appear that just happens to provide everything we need to live, such as air, water, fruit, seeds, nuts, and vegetables? The next time you see a bird or a squirrel or a fish or a horse, a raccoon, or any other animal, I hope that you see the handiwork and the creativity of God. Finally, the next time you look in the mirror, I hope you see a boy or a girl or a man or a woman who was created exactly the way God intended to create you. God doesn't make mistakes, nor does he make garbage. Psalm 139:14, this is David. David is praying and he says, "I will praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well." He made you with care in his image. If you are a boy or a man, embrace the masculinity that God gave you. If you are a girl or a woman, embrace the femininity that God gave you. God doesn't make mistakes, and he never will. You are valuable, you are loved, and you have a purpose. And most of all, you have a heavenly Father who will never abandon you or mistreat you like sometimes earthly mothers or fathers can. Psalm 27:10 says, "Though my father and my mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." And like the paintings in the story I shared, you are like that painting, made with care, with love, and a purpose. If you want to see God's signature, just look in the mirror. You are his signature. You are the evidence that he is your creator. You're not an animal, nor did you evolve from one. The next time you look at others, I hope you see them the same way. I've inserted some links in the description down below if you want to know more about where you really came from and how this earth truly came to be. That's all for today. Stay safe, stay blessed, and until next time. Ciao.